Let us start the topic materials, metals and non-metals. On the basis of physical and chemical properties, elements are broadly classified into two categories. These are metals and non-metals. Now, we must know what are metals or non-metals. So, let us start with the metals. A solid material which is typically hard, malleable, lustrous, sonorous and ductile with good electrical and thermal conductivity is known as metal. For example, iron, copper, calcium, magnesium, gold, silver or aluminium, all these are the metals. Even there are many more examples, you can classify them on your own. We will explain the meaning of malleable, lustrous or sonorous later on in this section. Now, what are non-metals? Those materials which do not possess the characteristics of metals are termed as non-metals. Non-metals are generally soft and dull in appearance and they break down into small pieces or powdery mass on tapping with hammer. They are non-sonorous and are poor conductors of heat and electricity. For example, sulfur, carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, etc. Here I will add upon that mercury is an exception which exists in liquid state but is classified as a metal. So mercury is an exception of a metal which exists in liquid state in nature. Now let us understand the different terms used to explain the metals or non-metals. The first one is malleability. The property of metals by which they can be beaten into thin sheets is called malleability. It means if we take a piece of metal and beat it with hammer, we observe that it is converted into thin sheet. And this property is known as malleability. Means converting a piece of metal into thin sheet is known as malleability. Now ductility. Ductility is the property of metal by which it can be drawn into wires. You all have seen copper wires or aluminium wires. These can be drawn into wires only because of the property of ductility. Sonorous means producing ringing sounds. All the metals, when they are beaten with a hammer, a ringing sound is observed. This property of metals of producing ringing sound is known as sonorous. And that is why bells are made up of metals. Lustrous. Next word is lustrous. Lustrous means very shiny or having shiny appearance. And the reflecting surface evenly and effectively without glitter or sparkle is also known as lustrous. So all the metals are very shiny in appearance, especially when they are new. You find they have very shiny appearance and this property is known as lustrous. When metals are exposed to air, gradually their shiny appearance they lose their shiny appearance and become dull. That is another concept which you will study later on. But initially all the metals are lustrous or they have shiny appearance. Physical properties of metals. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. That is, they allow the passage of heat and electricity through them. The second one is that metals are ductile, which means that they can be drawn into wires. Another one is that metals are hard. Though there are some exceptions like sodium and potassium are soft metals and can be cut with a knife. Then metals are lustrous, which means that they reflect the light from the surface and can be polished. Then metals are malleable, which means that they can be beaten into in sheets. Next one, most metals remain solid at room temperature except mercury and gallium, which remain liquid at room temperature. And metals produce ringing sounds when they are struck, and hence they are sonorous, except mercury, which is liquid in nature. Now there comes physical properties of non-metals. Number one, non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity, but graphite is an exception as it is a good conductor of electricity. Graphite actually is a form of carbon, and carbon is a non-metal. Then non-metals are brittle, that is, they break down when struck, and hence they cannot be drawn into wires. And the property, most of the non-metals are soft, but there are exceptions again. So diamonds are exceptions as they are the hardest substance or hardest material found on the earth. However, they are also very brittle and break when struck with a hammer. Then non-metals are generally dull and do not reflect light. Hence, they lack metallic luster, means they do not have shiny appearance. Again here, graphite is an exception which has shiny appearance or which has luster. Since non-metals break easily, they cannot be produced, they cannot be pounded into sheets, means they are not malleable in nature. Another one, most non-metals exist in two of the three states of metal at room temperature, that is either gases or solids. The examples of gases may be oxygen, nitrogen, etc., or solids such as carbon or phosphorus. Non-metals are non-sonorous and do not produce the typical metallic sound when they are struck. So these are the physical properties of metals and non-metals.